Hey guys, tonight I'm taking you somewhere different, somewhere older than memory and quieter than sleep, a place where history doesn't just speak, it whispers. But before we step into that darkness together, let me say this. Before you settle in, take a moment to tap the like button and subscribe, but only if my stories truly speak to you. And if you feel like it, share in the comments where you're listening from and what hour the night finds you. I'm always intrigued by the places and times my voice reaches across the world. Now, ease the lights to a soft glow and let a quiet hum, like a fan or distant breeze, settle around you. Good. Breathe in and let the night settle around you. I didn't expect to find anything unusual today. I wasn't searching for secrets or mysteries or the kind of things that follow you home long after the sun sets. But sometimes the most curious discoveries reach for you first. Earlier this afternoon, I stepped into a small, dust-covered shop tucked between two buildings that seemed older than the street itself. The sort of place you only notice when you're not looking for it. Inside, the air felt still, thick with the scent of old paper and forgotten things. My eyes drifted over shelves that bowed with age, stacked with books whose spines had long lost their names. Trinkets of past decades rested in glass cases like sleeping relics. None of it called to me. But in the very back of the room, behind a crooked display case and beneath a cluster of cobwebs, something did. A single book, blackened leather, cracked like ancient earth. No title at first glance until I tilted it toward the dusty window and saw a faint glimmer of gold. The Whispering Chronicle. The letters didn't look printed. They looked burned into the cover, as though someone had tried to brand the truth into the very skin of the leather. I don't know why I touched it. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe the room itself felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for me to reach. The moment my fingers brushed the cover, a chill rolled through my palm and up my arm. Slow, deliberate, almost like the book exhaled. I told myself it was only the cold, only the age. But when I carried it home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something in those pages was waiting. Now here I sit, the lights low, the world outside fallen into silence. The chronicle rests on the table before me, its surface catching the flicker of the candle beside it. The flame bends toward it, almost in greeting. When I open the cover, the pages do not crackle like ordinary old paper. Instead, they hum softly, vibrating with a warmth that feels impossibly alive. The ink on the first page seems to shift, as though stirred by my presence, as if the story is rearranging itself, searching for the next breath it wants to release. At the top, faint at first, a line reveals itself. This book does not tell the past, it shows it. Another flicker of the candle, a breath of warm air, or perhaps something else. As my eyes trace the curling letters, the room around me begins to soften. The corners blur, shadows darken to a velvety black, and the chronicle opens itself. The whisper begins, soft, distant, like a memory trying to find its way back. I lean closer, and the world I know begins to fall away. The words on the page blur, not fading, but shifting, as though the book is choosing what to show me next. The ink swirls like smoke caught in a slow breeze, gathering into shapes I don't yet recognize. Then, the candle beside me sputters. A single drop of wax rolls down its side, and the room dissolves. It doesn't vanish sharply. It melts, softly, silently, until the walls around me flow like watercolor, draining down into a pool of darkness. The air cools. My breath tightens. I blink, and when my eyes open, I am no longer sitting in my room. I am standing in a street, a medieval street, not the romantic kind you see in movies or on postcards, no bright banners or clean cobblestones. This street is narrow, crooked, and alive with a tension that clings to the skin. Fog drifts low to the ground, but it isn't the pretty kind. It's thick with the smell of damp wool, old smoke, and something sour beneath it that makes the back of my throat prickle. I take a slow breath, and the chronicle whispers at the edge of my hearing. Plague season. My eyes adjust to the dim gray light, and at first glance, nothing seems to move. Houses lean forward on either side, as if eavesdropping on my presence. Their wooden frames bow inward, warped by time. Most of the windows are shuttered. The few that aren't stare back like hollow eyes. Then, something catches my attention. Red paint smeared across a door just ahead. A crude cross. Thick strokes, uneven. The symbol of the marked and the forsaken. A warning. A plea. A surrender. I feel the weight of it before I understand it. The door is sealed from the outside. I hear it then. A muted cough from within. A weak voice. A child, maybe. And suddenly the street seems to contract around me, as if it remembers the fear that shaped it centuries ago. A cart rattles in the distance. Slow, unsteady wheels creaking with every rotation. The figure pushing it wears layered cloth wrapped so tightly around the face that only the eyes show. Tired, dull, resigned. Over the figure's shoulder hangs a bell on a frayed rope. It gives a soft, metallic jingle with each step. Not loud, not ceremonial, just enough to warn others. Keep away, keep away. The dead are coming through. The figure moves past me without acknowledging me, as though I'm a ghost, or perhaps something the vision itself shaped from fog. My senses sharpen. Every detail feels too real. The mud clinging to my shoes, the chill creeping under my collar, the texture of the air, heavy, stale, clinging to the lungs. A woman across the street pulls her shawl tighter. She glances left, then right, before slipping out from her doorway with a bucket of water. She pours it over the threshold, scrubbing as though trying to wash away fate itself. Her eyes briefly meet mine. They are tired, frantic, and full of a fear that runs deeper than any I've felt in my comfortable modern life. No hospitals, no medicine, no explanation. Just a world shrinking into silence, house by house. I step forward, drawn by the chronicle's whispering pulse in my mind. Every time I inhale, I can taste the layers of the past, the smoke of last night's fire, the metallic tang of the damp, the faint sweetness of rotting fruit left abandoned in a shuttered market stall. In the distance, a church bell tolls once. Low, mournful. It echoes down the corridor of houses, and I feel a chill roll up my arms. Someone calls out, an old man's voice, cracked and wavering. "Is anyone there? Please, someone?" His plea ends abruptly, swallowed by the wind, or perhaps by the fear that no one dares answer. I realize then, with a slow ache settling in my chest, there is no comfort here, no safety net, no reassurance that help is on the way. This world moves forward on raw instinct and whispered prayers, and I think about how quickly modern people would crumble here. The air alone, thick with uncertainty and dread, could undo the strongest of us. The silence, the isolation, the constant threat lurking in the simplest act of breathing. Here, life doesn't feel guaranteed, it feels borrowed. A flicker of movement draws my attention. A young woman emerges from a doorway, clutching a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Her eyes stay fixed on the ground as she approaches the cart. She lays the bundle gently inside, hands trembling. The cart driver gives a slow nod of recognition, of sorrow, before covering the bundle with a thin, worn sheet. The bell jingles once more. I feel my heart drop, and I realize I've seen enough. My breath is shaking without me noticing. The world around me begins to soften again, edges blurring, colors draining, as though the vision itself grows weary. The fog thickens, the street fades, and just before everything dissolves into the dark, the chronicle whispers one more phrase. You would not last a day here. Then, I am back. The candle beside me flickers, its flame stretched lean and thin, like it too had been somewhere else for a moment. The whispering chronicle rests open on the table. Its pages are still, silent, waiting. And I know it's not finished with me yet. The silence in my room feels different now, thicker, almost aware. The candle's flame, once steady, trembles like it remembers the streets I just walked through. And the book, the whispering chronicle, lies open before me, its pages unmoving, but not idle, not resting, settling, perhaps, like a creature preparing for its next breath. I reach for it cautiously, though I'm not sure why. Maybe part of me still expects the warmth from before, that subtle thrum like a heartbeat beneath the leather. And yes, there it is. As my fingertips graze the edge of the page, the ink begins to shift again, softly at first, like dust caught in a drifting light, then more boldly, shaping itself into new lines. The candle dims, the air cools, and the chronicle pulls. This time it feels less like falling into a vision, and more like being invited, gently, deliberately, into a memory that refuses to be forgotten. My surroundings dissolve once again. The wooden table melts into darkness. The walls fade. The candle's glow, stretched thin, then shatters into nothing. When the shapes reform, I'm no longer standing in the sickened breath of plague-ridden streets. I'm standing before a tavern door. The tavern entrance. It leans slightly to the left, as though drunk on its own age. Thick, warped timber, iron hinges stained black with soot. A sliver of firelight glows beneath the threshold, flickering like a restless heartbeat. I can smell it before I even step inside. Smoke from a peat fire, rich and heavy. Mead, fermented sharpness biting the air. Sweat from long travel, the vaguest hint of damp earth that clings to everything in this world. The chronicle whispers faintly at my back. Enter. So I do. The door groans open on tired hinges, announcing me to a room that reacts with subtle tension. Not outright hostility, just the wary attention strangers earn in places where trouble never feels far away. When I step across the threshold, the warmth hits me like a thick blanket. Not comforting warmth, the kind that clings to your clothes, your lungs, your skin. The tavern is dim, mostly lit by a fire burning in a stone hearth. Its flames lick upward, painting the room in shifting amber. Everything casts long shadows. The tables, the beams overhead, the figures hunched over their mugs. Those shadows move like living things. Inside the tavern, a group of men sit closest to the fire, their cloaks steaming slightly from the cold outside. Their faces are carved with worry, creases born from years of hard soil, harder winters, and the weight of survival. At another table, two women murmur in low voices, sharing gossip or warnings, I can't tell which. Every few words they glance toward the door or towards me, though they never fully raise their heads. A serving girl moves through the room, her steps swift but cautious. She wears an apron stained, her hair tied back with a strip of cloth. Her eyes flick to mine just long enough for me to see a life of constant motion. The air is thick, almost too thick to breathe. The mix of heat and smoke presses against the back of my throat. And I think, quietly, we wouldn't last 5 minutes in here, not truly. Not with our purified water, our ventilated rooms, our clean fabrics and antiseptic expectations. This place demands a different kind of constitution, the kind built from necessity, not choice. A mug is slammed onto a nearby table, foam spilling over the rim. The man who ordered it lifts it with a grunt and drinks deeply. His beard traps some of the liquid. He wipes it away with the back of his hand. The sound is harsh in the otherwise subdued room. A plate of food sits beside him, bread dark with coarse ground flour, cracked at the surface like dry earth. Meat salted beyond recognition. A stew so thick it barely moves when the spoon touches it. The smell is strong, but not inviting. I lean closer out of instinct, and the scent tells its story. Food meant not for pleasure but survival. Calories over comfort, practicality over taste. Modern palates would recoil. We're spoiled for spice shelves, clean kitchens, refrigeration, and endless choice. Here, choice is a luxury no one expects. The murmurs. A conversation begins to rise from the corner. Two men whisper in sharp tones, voices muffled by tankards and suspicion. I catch fragments. North Road, cursed. Lights in the woods. Don't speak of it. Told you, keep your head down. Superstition sits beside them like a silent patron, the kind woven into daily life, believed not because of evidence, but because survival depends on fear. Another man mutters a prayer beneath his breath before taking a sip of ale. A charm hangs from his neck, wood, etched with symbols. A talisman against the unknown. I realize how fragile safety feels in a world where the dark isn't softened by electricity, where the unseen holds power simply because it can't be explained. We like to think we'd be brave, but here, bravery is just another word for desperation, and desperation wears thin quickly. Hostility without a word. As I move further inside, a few patrons turn their heads. Not many, just enough to remind me, I do not belong here. Strangers are questions waiting to be answered. Strangers might bring trouble. Strangers might carry secrets or danger. I feel their eyes on me, measuring, weighing, deciding what kind of threat I might be. My pulse quickens. And for the first time in these visions, I sense real unease creeping under my skin. I imagine a modern visitor sitting here, expecting hospitality, comfort, friendliness. They would be out of place, exposed, vulnerable. Here, trust is not given. It's earned, slowly, cautiously, and often too late. The fading of the vision. The fire shifts, sending a new wave of smoke curling through the room. It stings my eyes. I blink. The sound of mugs hitting wood begins to soften. The murmurs become distant. The warmth cools. The shadows stretch, elongating until the room becomes a smear of dark amber and black. Then, another blink, and the tavern falls away. The wooden tables dissolve like dust. The fire collapses into glowing embers, then embers into nothing. And I'm back. The darkness of my room returns in a slow, familiar sweep. The candle trembles. The chronicle lies open, as though innocently waiting for me to catch my breath. Its pages are still, quiet, but the warmth beneath them hasn't faded. It's ready. Another vision presses at the edges of my awareness, one heavier, colder, carved from stone and shadow. The next page begins to turn on its own, and I know exactly where it's taking me. The page turns before I touch it, slowly, deliberately, as if the book knows I'm hesitating, knows I'm bracing myself, yet refuses to offer me the luxury of preparation. The candle beside me sways, leaning toward the chronicle, its flame stretching long and thin, like a finger urging me forward, or warning me. The ink on the page stirs in a silent ripple. The air thickens, pressing gently against my chest. And somewhere, far away, a low rumble rises, so faint I cannot tell if it's thunder or drums or memory shaking itself awake. Then, stone materializes beneath my feet. Cold, solid, unmerciful. The world sharpens into place, swift and unmistakable, like the sudden shine of steel drawn from its sheath. I blink and find myself standing before a castle. The fortress towers above me, swallowing the sky. Dark stone blocks stack upward with a severity that looks less like architecture and more like intimidation carved into permanence. The walls glisten, wet with rain, breath, sweat, and centuries of whispered dread. A narrow moat encircles the gate, filled with dark, stagnant water, thick with algae and unkind reflections. A heavy drawbridge spans the gap, lowered not with pomp or flourish, but with a reluctant groan, as though the wood itself dislikes the idea of allowing strangers to step upon it. I understand something, without the chronicle needing to whisper it. Once you cross this bridge, the castle does not simply receive you, it owns you. I inhale slowly. The air tastes of iron and old timber. I step forward. As my foot touches the wooden planks, the vision deepens. Sound swells around me, filling in like ink spreading to the edge of a page. Armored boots clanging in erratic rhythms, short, barked commands ricocheting off stone, metal scraping metal, breath, motion, strain. Life here does not idle, it does not dawdle, it is purpose sharpened to an edge. And I feel its weight even before I pass beneath the gate. The moment I cross beneath the portcullis, the temperature drops so sharply it pulls a breath from my lungs. This cold is not weather, it is culture, a climate created by stone, discipline, and decades of fear settling into the mortar. Long corridors stretch outward, each one lit only by torches wedged into iron brackets. Their flames fight violently against the darkness, refusing to die, but never truly thriving. A cluster of servants rushes past me, heads bowed, arms burdened with wooden buckets, linens, trays, tools, each one moving with relentless urgency. None make eye contact, not with me, not with each other. To look too long is to risk being noticed, and being noticed is rarely a gift here. A man in a battered leather jerkin steps out from a side passage. "Faster!" he snaps. "The Lord wants the hall prepared before dusk. Move!" His voice cracks like a whip. No one dares reply. They simply adjust their pace, shoulders tensing, feet shuffling quicker. Respect is not the backbone of this place. Fear is the currency. And every person here is bankrupt, always owing more. I walk deeper into the corridor, running my fingers lightly along the stone. It is freezing to the touch, the kind of cold that sinks into your bones and stays there, even long after you've stepped into sunlight. Even breathing feels conditional, granted, not guaranteed. The chronicle tugs me toward a side hallway, down steps worn smoothed by hundreds of thousands of boots. The air grows brighter before I see daylight. Then, the courtyard expands before me like a living beast. Noise explodes around me. Clashing steel, grunts of exertion, the crack of wood against metal. An instructor shouting corrections, curses, threats. Soldiers circle each other in rigid formations, sweat streaking through dirt on their faces. Their swings are heavy, not theatrical, not graceful, just brutally functional. Every strike looks like it carries the full weight of survival. A boy stands among them, 12, maybe 13. He grips a wooden practice sword far too large for him. His arms tremble with each block. The older man training him does not compensate, does not go easier. he strikes harder. The chronicle inflicts a sensation on me, a ghost of weight in my own hands. My arm tingles, falls heavy. This is not the balanced, elegant steel romanticized in stories. This is crude iron, heavy, demanding, unforgiving. A modern person, accustomed to air-conditioned gyms, padded equipment, and motivational playlists, would collapse under 1 hour of this punishment. On the far edge of the yard, 2 soldiers erupt into a heated argument. I can't hear the words clearly, but the tone is unmistakable. Accusation, desperation, pride. Someone shoves, someone swears. Tension sharpens like a blade. No one steps in, not instructors, not fellow trainees, not even the guards watching from above. If it becomes violent, so be it. In the castle, conflict is not prevented, it is observed. One way or another, the castle sorts its own problems. A deep horn sounds from somewhere above, a short, sharp note that vibrates the courtyard stones. Bodies shift direction. The chronicle guides me along with them. We funnel into a massive hall where a fire roars in a central pit, sending waves of warmth into the otherwise icy air. Animal skins hang along the walls, stiff and cured. Torches line the thick pillars, their crackling flames casting restless shadows across long tables carved with decades of knife marks. This hall is not grandeur, it is function, a place to eat, meet, shout, punish, and endure. At the far end sits the lord of the castle, a man built like a wall, broad shoulders, stern eyes carved deep with fatigue and rigid expectation. He sits in a heavy wooden chair, not a throne, a command. His presence shapes the room. Every glance, gesture, movement is a tiny orbit around him. No one relaxes, no one truly breathes. A servant passes behind me carrying a tray of bread and meat. I see the tray tremble, just slightly. The Lord notices. His gaze sharpens. The servant shifts his grip, bows his head even lower, and disappears quickly into the crowd. My stomach knots for him. Modern people, with their expectation of fairness, workplace rights, and emotional safety, would crumble in seconds. Here, hierarchy isn't an organization, it is a weapon. And obedience is survival. The chronicle hums, soft but unsettling. I feel myself drawn toward a darker corner of the hall, where the firelight fades and the air thickens. Voices slip through the shadows, hushed and heavy. Execution at dawn, food stores missing, must make an example. Punishment here is not occasional, it is routine, public, purposeful, a merciless reinforcement of power. It is not about justice. It is about reminding everyone what happens to those who stumble, misplace an item, speak out of turn, sleep through a shift, fail to bow deeply enough. The castle responds harshly, without discussion, without delay. My chest tightens. Here, people don't fear death. Not exactly. They fear humiliation, cold, pain, isolation, becoming an example. A modern person, softened by comfort, protected by systems, would not survive a day in this structure. Not a morning, not an hour, not even the time it takes to cross the drawbridge. The chronicle pulls me deeper still, down narrow corridors where the walls squeeze inward, up steep staircases where each step feels carved for someone with stronger legs and a harder life. Past storerooms filled with salted meat, barrels of ale, rough sacks of grain, every resource precious, rationed, and fought over. In the armory, weapons hang in rows, axes with chipped edges, spears with splintered shafts, shields still bearing scars of past battles. I run a hand along one shield rim, cold metal, rough wood, a dent that tells a story without words. Nearby, a medic tends to an injured soldier. No anesthesia, no sterilization, just cloth, boiling water, and a dull blade. The soldier bites down on leather to muffle his screams. The medic works with detached precision. He has done this too many times to flinch. The chronicle brushes emotion against me, a wave of dread mixed with admiration and deep, aching sorrow. This castle is not a place of chivalry. It is a machine, grinding, relentless, hungry. The torches crackle. Shadows stretch unnaturally long. The walls distort, bending like soft wax. The chronicle pulls, harder this time. The hall stretches upward, fading into cold darkness. The courtyard dissolves into ash-gray mist. Boots, shouts, steel, fire, all unravel into a long, echoing hum. The castle loosens its grip, releases me, for now. And suddenly, I'm back, in my room. The candle sputtering violently, almost suffocated by the cold memory lingering in the air. It stabilizes, trembling, but alive. The whispering chronicle lies open on the table, the ink still shimmering faintly as if preparing to breathe again. And in that stillness between heartbeats, I sense what's coming next. Something older, something stranger, something shaped by superstition, fear, and the night itself. The page fills with darkness. Not black ink, but something softer, shifting, like charcoal smoke caught in a faint breeze. The candle in my room dims as though something unseen leans over it. The air thickens, cools. My breath comes slower, shallower, and the chronicle whispers, "Night holds its own truths. The world wavers, and the darkness takes form." I stand in a small clearing, surrounded by wooden cottages, their thatched roofs glistening beneath a pale sliver of moonlight. The quiet is vast, larger than the sky itself. No hum of electricity, no distant engines, just the sound of wind sweeping across open land. The village sleeps uneasily. A single lantern glows in the window of the nearest cottage, its flame trembling as though refusing to be alone. A dog whines somewhere in the distance, then stops abruptly. And I feel it, a presence. Not dangerous exactly, but ancient, older than the walls, older than the people, older than the language they mutter. A woman steps out of a cottage, wrapping a wool shawl around her shoulders. She looks up at the sky, lips moving in a whispered charm. She hangs a bundle of herbs over the door, sage, rosemary, and something darker, shaped like twisted fingers, a ward against night wanderers, though she never names them aloud. Another door creaks open. A man drags a line of chalk along the threshold, muttering in a breathless rhythm. Not art, not decoration, protection. From what? He doesn't say. He doesn't need to. We fear many things today. Tasks, deadlines, voices online, shadows of stress. But here, fear is not imagined. It is woven into survival. Night is not a time to relax. Night is a time to guard what you love. Every sound matters. Every silence speaks. A single owl's call makes a family draw their children closer. The wind shifts, and the entire village seems to inhale as though bracing. I can feel the anxiety, thick as mist, wrapping around my ribs. Far beyond the cottages, the tree line sways. Branches creak with an unsettling rhythm. A figure, just a flicker of shadow, moves between the trunks. Human? Animal? Something else? The villagers do not ask. As the woman with the shawl closes her door, she whispers 3 words into the night. Keep us unseen. And I finally understand. The chronicle murmurs. Here, the dark was not empty. It was alive. The night alone, completely silent, completely unbroken, would unravel us. We depend on distractions, noise, assurances, explanations. Here, there are none. Here, night is its own entity, unpredictable, vast, sentient in ways we no longer believe possible. Our minds, softened by certainty, would stretch thin under such weight, and then snap. The lanterns dim, the moonlight thins. The village's fear still clings to my skin, and the book whispers only one word: continue. The room barely has time to settle around me before the chronicle stirs again. The village's shadows rise like smoke, reshaping for a heartbeat into the cold outline of Castle Stone, only to melt and dissolve once more, pulled into a deeper darkness. The castle dissolves behind me, not abruptly, but slowly, like mist thinning in morning light. Its stone walls soften, losing their sharp edges, turning to pale smoke that drifts upward and scatters into the unseen. For a breath, I exist in nothing at all, suspended between moments, weightless and unanchored. The candle that once flickered beside me feels impossibly far away, reduced to a memory of warmth. Then the world gathers again. I feel ground beneath my feet, firm and damp, as though rain has recently passed. Cool air wraps around me, carrying with it the faint scent of earth and wood smoke. Shadows weave themselves into walls, into shapes, into structures, and slowly the chronicle's whisper returns, not in words, but as a pressure in my chest, a gentle guiding pull. When vision finally settles, I stand at the edge of a village. It rests among rolling hills that rise and fall like a sleeping beast, darkened by the late hour. No torches flank the road, no lanterns burn brightly.
The only light comes from the faint glow of a few hearths, distant and scattered, like dying embers struggling to remain alive against the vastness of night. The darkness here feels different from the castle's corridors or the tavern's smoky interior. It is not confined. It stretches outward without end, a thick, velvet presence pressing down from every direction. The air tastes of damp soil, old wood, and something ancient, something that clings to the land itself. Every breath carries a heaviness, as if the earth remembers the centuries it has endured and shares that memory unwillingly with anyone who walks upon it. And almost immediately, I feel it. The fear. Not loud, not frantic, not the sharp, urgent terror that accompanies sudden danger. This fear is quiet, steady, woven into the fabric of the village like thread through cloth. It hums beneath every creak of timber, every rustle of leaves, every breath exhaled behind closed doors. It is not superstition for entertainment or ritual for tradition. It is survival. A soft sound draws my attention, bare feet on packed dirt. A child crosses the narrow road, stepping lightly, as though the ground itself might react if disturbed too loudly. A carved wooden charm hangs from a string around their neck, swinging with each cautious step. The child's small hand clutches it tightly, knuckles pale in the dim light. Beside them, a parent walks, shoulders tense, eyes darting constantly toward the tree line. Their lips move in a whisper too faint to hear, but the cadence suggests prayer or protection. The parent's arm gently guides the child, not with affection, but with urgency disguised as care. They do not speak aloud. Sound here is not a luxury, it is a risk. The chronicle hums softly within me, as though acknowledging my realization. It does not explain, it merely observes. A shutter creaks open on the nearest hut. An older woman peers out, her face lined by years of weather and worry. She steps outside, her movements deliberate. In her hands, she carries bundles of dried herbs, garlic, rue, and small clusters of flowers whose petals are nearly black. She hangs them carefully above the doorway, tying the cord with practiced precision. When she finishes, she crosses herself twice, not out of habit, but out of necessity. Her gaze lifts toward the forest, and for a moment, fear flickers openly across her features. The chronicle pulses faintly, like a heartbeat beneath the quiet hum of night. Here, belief is not a choice, it is breath. A low murmur drifts through the air from another hut, a chant, rhythmic and steady. The words float on the breeze, half prayer, half warning, spoken not loudly, but with conviction. A talisman carved from bone swings gently from the rafters, its shadow stretching long across the wooden walls within. The movement seems almost purposeful, as though responding to something unseen. I feel the tension that binds the villagers together, the knowledge that misfortune follows those who ignore these rituals. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. Consequences are real and immediate. A door opens further down the path. A man steps out, cradling a small torch. Its flame flickers weakly, as though reluctant to burn in the heavy air. He moves toward the edge of the village, each step careful, measured. When he reaches the tree line, he stops. His posture stiffens. His head lowers. He whispers something into the darkness. A warning? A plea? A negotiation? Before I can discern meaning, the forest swallows his words completely, devouring them with the ease of a predator consuming prey. He turns quickly and retreats, extinguishing the torch before reaching his door. Only when he is safely inside does he exhale. I understand then fully. Here, the unseen holds power beyond any weapon, more influential than wealth, stronger than law. These people do not fear shadows because they are uneducated or naive. They fear them because shadows here are not empty. They are inhabited. I breathe slowly, trying to absorb the weight of it, the fear of darkness, of what moves within it, what watches beyond the reach of firelight, the reliance on ritual, on charms, on whispered words to survive each night. It presses against my ribs like mist thickening into water, and I realize that someone from my time, someone accustomed to locks, lights, alarms, and explanations, would falter immediately. Our fears are abstract, psychological, diluted. We fear social rejection, deadlines, invisible pressures of modern life. But here, fear is tangible. It breathes. It hunts. Every movement carries meaning. Every sound is interpreted. Every silence speaks volumes. A sudden clatter breaks the stillness. A child knocking over a small jar of herbs inside a nearby hut. The mother reacts instantly, not with anger, but with a sharp inhale. She mutters a quick incantation under her breath, her hands moving in a practiced gesture to restore what she believes has been disturbed. The child watches, wide-eyed, understanding the gravity of their mistake. Even accidents are not simple here. They ripple outward, touching the delicate balance between the villagers and the unseen forces that surround them. The chronicle hums again, stronger this time. A pull. The air grows lighter, as though the night itself loosens its hold. The shadows thin, not disappearing, but retreating just enough to release their grip. The village begins to dissolve, walls fading, lights dimming, figures softening into mist. I feel myself being drawn backwards, inch by inch, pulled through layers of darkness and silence. Then warmth. The candlelight of my room flickers back into existence, soft and golden. The chronicle lies open before me, as though it has not moved at all, though the pages feel warmer beneath my fingertips. The silence is absolute. But I know better. Silence now carries memory. I have walked through a world where the unseen dictated every choice, where survival depended not on strength or intelligence alone, but on intuition, ritual, and constant vigilance. And I know, with sudden clarity, that another vision waits. One darker still. One that does not merely graze the boundary between life and fear, but crosses fully into the realm of death itself. The chronicle's whisper curls through my thoughts, soft yet undeniable. There is more. The last vision leaves a residue in my mind, a faint pressure behind my eyes, like the weight of unseen hands. The chronicle sits before me, still and patient, as though it knows what comes next. I reach out slowly, and the pages respond, trembling under my touch. A single line appears in gold ink, faint yet undeniable. A day in this world was never promised. The air in my room thickens, cold seeping into my bones. And then the world melts away again. I stand in a graveyard. The earth is damp, churned unevenly by countless hands. Simple wooden markers lean at odd angles, names faded, worn by rain and time. The smell of soil, moss, and decay fills the air, subtle yet persistent. This place is quiet, but not peaceful. It is heavy with absence. I walk slowly among the graves. Some are marked with care, others are unadorned, anonymous. Children, elders, mothers, fathers, all pressed beneath the same cold earth. No grand ceremonies for most, no stone monuments to mark their passing. Only the quiet witness of the living who remain. I realize slowly that this vision is not about fear or superstition. It is about inevitability. Death was ever present. It came unannounced, often sudden, and rarely with comfort. A figure moves in the distance, shoveling earth in a hurried rhythm. The motion is mechanical, practiced, almost ritual. No time is wasted in mourning, only the barest acknowledgement of passing. I feel a strange kinship with them, yet a shiver runs down my spine. Modern life shields us from this constant presence of death. We fear it, yes, but it rarely shadows our every breath. Medieval people could not escape it, even in their sleep. And that relentlessness, it would break us in a day. I pause beside a simple cross marking a child's grave. The wind moves softly, rustling the grass, carrying whispers from the earth. I realize that every step I took in the plague streets, every cautious breath in the tavern, every careful move in the castle, every superstition-laden ritual I observed, all of it culminates here in the silent weight of those who never returned. I feel a profound exhaustion, not just physical, but spiritual, emotional. This is what medieval life demanded: endurance, humility, and constant acceptance of fragility. Modern comforts, medicine, sanitation, security, electricity, are luxuries we barely understand until they are gone. The chronicle hums faintly. It does not ask for my acknowledgement. It does not apologize for the truth it shows. It only shows. A last gust of wind lifts leaves from the graves, sending them skittering across the soil. The sky darkens, not in anger, but in inevitability. The air thins, and the dampness of earth gives way to the warmth of my room. I am back. The candle flickers softly beside me. The chronicle rests open, its pages calm. The silence is complete, yet resonant, and I am left with this quiet understanding. We cannot imagine the world they lived in. We would not last a day. The candle flickers, stretching long shadows across the walls, bending them into strange shapes that almost seem to move of their own volition. The chronicle lies open before me, its leather cover worn smooth by hands I will never know. The warmth of the pages beneath my fingers is faint but undeniable, like the lingering heartbeat of a presence that has witnessed centuries. I rest my palm gently atop it, and it hums softly beneath me. Not loud, not intrusive, but persistent, a reminder that the stories it contains are not fully gone, even when the vision has ended. I close my eyes for a moment, letting the room dissolve. The candle becomes a sun dimmed by distance, the chronicle a portal to worlds I have walked through, touched, and felt. I see again the plague-laden streets, where sickness clung to the air like smoke, twisting the scent of bread and firewood into something acrid, pungent, alive. I hear the distant cries, the muted coughs, the hurried, purposeful steps of those who understood that every hour could be your last. Then the castle corridors, the cold stone pressing against my back, torches flickering weakly, armored footsteps clanging against the floor like an unbroken drum of duty and fear. I feel the weight of hierarchy, of a world where power is absolute, where comfort does not exist, where even a moment's hesitation can carry consequences that linger far longer than pain. I hear again the voices of the young boy wielding his oversized sword, of men shouting over rations, of servants bending to impossible labor, all alive in my mind with astonishing clarity. The village at night drifts into my consciousness once more. The small cottages huddled under the trees, herbs and charms hanging above every doorway, the unseen forces that shape lives with an unrelenting persistence. I feel the soil beneath my feet, soft, damp, smelling of centuries and shadows. I hear the rustle of unseen creatures, the whispered prayers of villagers, and the weight of belief, necessity, and fear that shaped the rhythms of existence there. I take a slow, deliberate breath, feeling it fill my lungs and settle in my chest. The air is cool, still, scented faintly with wax and old paper. I let myself sink into the awareness of vigilance, the tireless attentiveness that marked every life I have witnessed. Even now, sitting in a warm, safe room, I am aware of the contrast. I realize how soft modern life is, how insulated we are from every danger the past demanded we face. We move through lighted streets, protected by locks, laws, and medicine. We breathe without the constant suspicion of disease, darkness, or violence pressing close to our heels. And yet there is something almost foreign in our comfort. I feel, in a way, a longing for the sharp clarity of life under pressure, of a world that demands everything and forgives nothing. I know instinctively that even the briefest exposure to such worlds would break us, our bodies, our minds, our expectations, our very assumptions about safety. The chronicle hums faintly beneath my hand, as if sensing my contemplation. It offers no judgment, only awareness. And I understand that the stories it tells are not entertainment. They are reminders of the resilience, cunning, courage, and endurance required to exist in the worlds I have walked. I allow my mind to layer the experiences one atop the other, like sediment building through time. The narrow, dark streets of plague, thick with the smell of smoke and sickness. The crowded tavern, smoke curling through every shadow, voices low and urgent, knives and tankards clanging, human desires and frustrations compressed into a single suffocating space. The castle, cold stone corridors, torches flickering, voices barking, the weight of authority pressing down on every servant, every warrior, every observer. The superstitious village, herbs and charms, whispered prayers, unseen eyes watching, the night alive with potential threat, the night heavy with presence. I allow myself to sit with each image, one after the other, letting the textures sink deep into my awareness. The tactile impressions, the scents, the sounds, the weight of presence, everything is vivid, immediate, and unyielding. And yet, paradoxically, there is a serenity here. The clarity of life under pressure, the unbroken vigilance, the intimacy with danger. These are not just terrifying, they are profound. There is beauty in endurance, in adaptation, in recognizing and respecting forces greater than oneself. The chronicle rests beneath my hand, warm, quiet, almost breathing. I feel a pulse, subtle and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of centuries. It reminds me that history is never distant. It exists as texture, as weight, as lesson, waiting for the mind and body willing to notice. I imagine the villagers again, the old woman clutching her charm, the child stepping lightly through darkness, the man whispering to the edge of the forest. Their lives are precarious, every moment an active negotiation with forces unseen. The forest is full of watchful eyes. The night is alive. And I am struck by how sharp, precise, and unrelenting their awareness must have been. In our world, this would feel suffocating, unimaginable. But in theirs, it was life itself, layered, intricate, and necessary. I let the thoughts settle. I breathe slowly, deliberately, letting the room, the candlelight, the quiet, and the hum of the chronicle ground me. Survival in these worlds is not heroic in the modern sense. There are no grand gestures, no glorified battles, no epic speeches. Survival is mundane, relentless, ritualistic. It is waking each day and understanding the consequences of every decision before they are made. It is acknowledging that the world is indifferent, but your actions are not. It is small acts of diligence, attention, foresight, and respect for forces that you cannot bend to your will. I feel the weight of this philosophy pressing gently against my mind. It is humbling, but it is also profound. I realize now that courage is quiet. It is not spectacle. It is living fully in the knowledge of fragility, of uncertainty, of inevitable loss. I sit with this thought, allowing it to expand. I let it sink into my bones. I feel a deep sense of connection with those who lived such lives, a reverence for their resilience. I focus now on the sensory echoes that remain, the cold that sinks into bone in the castle corridors, the metallic tang of blood, sweat, and iron in the training yard, the acrid smoke and ashes drifting through taverns, the damp earth of the village paths heavy with night and forest decay, the faint warmth of a candle in a cottage window promising fleeting comfort. I feel these sensations as though they linger on my skin, in my nostrils, in my fingertips. The chronicle hums faintly beneath my hand, reinforcing them, layering them, connecting them to memory. It reminds me that these worlds are real, lived, and consequential, not abstract, not distant. Even as my body remains in a warm, safe room, my mind and spirit have traversed centuries. I close my eyes once more. I imagine the slow sweep of time, the rise and fall of civilizations, the rhythm of centuries pressing against each other. I feel my presence within it, fleeting, yet attentive. The lives I have witnessed are gone, yet they pulse faintly in the chronicle, waiting to be seen, understood, and felt. I feel the juxtaposition of now and then, our ease against their endurance, our comfort against their struggle, our ignorance against their vigilance. And I feel gratitude, not only for our safety, but for the opportunity to witness, through this strange and wondrous book, the depths of human courage and fragility. I lean back, my body heavy but relaxed. The candlelight flickers, casting gentle warmth across the room. The chronicle rests beneath my palm, still humming faintly, still alive with the weight of the stories it contains. I let my mind drift, gently, slowly, like a leaf floating on a river. I imagine the villagers once more, the castle's servants, the warriors, the travelers, the textures, the sounds, the scents, the small gestures of survival. The chronicle's whisper is faint now, a low vibration at the edge of hearing. Remember, respect, listen, always listen. I allowed the words to become part of the night, part of the silence, part of the slow, hypnotic rhythm of my own heartbeat. I close my eyes fully now. The candle burns low, its light softening until it is almost imperceptible. The room stretches quietly around me. The chronicle rests, patient and enduring. I let my worlds I have visited settle into memory, not as fear, but as reflection. I let the lessons of vigilance, endurance, and respect linger in my mind. I allow the calm, the quiet, and the warmth to carry me gently into the slow descent of sleep. Every breath is deliberate. Every heartbeat is steady. Every shadow in the room is soft, protective, and familiar. I whisper one last acknowledgement, barely audible, for the lives I have seen. We would not last a day in your world. We would not last an hour. And yet, in this moment, we carry your courage with us. In this quiet, we honor your endurance. In this night, we remember. I drift. I sink. I let the quiet enfold me completely. The chronicle waits. The night stretches on, and sleep carries me into the hush of history and memory.